Let's get on to the political squabbling over our relationship with China and catch up with Michael Shoebridge, who's the Director of Policy and Strategy at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Thanks for joining us again, Michael. Penny Wong, as the Foreign Affairs spokesman for the Labor opposition, has been attacking the government over its China rhetoric. Is that to be expected, or does it point to a widening gap between the two governing parties when it comes to China and foreign policy?
Well, Chris, I think it's disappointing that there's any gap at all. Penny Wong's speech was a case of one spokesperson, two speeches today. Half of her speech was devoted to signing up to all the structural China policy that the government has put in place and the parliament's put in place over the last few years. So 5G, strengthening foreign investment regulation, countering foreign interference, standing up to Chinese economic coercion, and of course positions on Xinjiang and Hong Kong. The other half was spent doing exactly what she criticised the government and the Prime Minister for apparently doing, which was domestic politicking about China and the government. And the problem with that is that's exactly the kind of thing Beijing wants. It wants these gaps and this domestic anger and discussion, and it hates that structural unity that was so refreshing in a great chunk of her speech.
Yeah, that's the point I made at the top of the program. It's obviously what would please Beijing, to see a country standing up to it, to see the lack of political unity on that, to see political squabbling over that. That would make them very happy in Beijing. That would be just reward for their wolf warrior diplomacy. Let's have a little bit of a look at how Penny Wong was attacking the rhetoric, I suppose, of the government. Here she is after her speech, speaking to our own Kieran Gilbert.
The government, frankly, stoking anxiety on the China relationship, whether it be discussions about the drums of war, whether it be Peter Dutton's talking about conflict, or George Christensen posting "war is coming" on his Facebook. I mean, you know, it doesn't need much of the imagination.
Yeah, well, George Christensen's a sort of low-ranking backbencher who's on the way out of politics. I don't think that matters much in the relationship. But is there a point to be made there at all about the other elements, the frank words from Peter Dutton in particular?
Well, I tell you what I would have liked to have heard today was something about what Xi has been doing, Xi Jinping has been doing. So let's go through that short list. In 2019, he ended the long-standing Chinese government policy that Taiwan was a problem to be resolved by future generations. He said it's a problem that shouldn't be passed to future generations. He's issued a mobilisation order in January to the People's Liberation Army, telling them to prepare for war and to be primed to fight at any second. In October last year, he visited the PLA's Marine Corps, the part of the Chinese military charged with amphibious assaults on places like Taiwan, told them to prepare for war and to focus on being able to seize Taiwan. And he's ended any peaceful path to unification that the Taiwanese people might actually support by what he's done in ending the one country, two systems environment in Hong Kong. And then there's PLA incursions at record levels into Taiwanese sea and airspace. These are the things that we should be noticing, and this is why credibly deterring Xi from using force against Taiwan is being discussed in Tokyo, Washington, and even in the G7 foreign ministers meeting in early May.
Spot on, Michael. Well said. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Michael Shoebridge there, making the key point that wouldn't it be better for Labor to talk publicly about public criticisms of China, criticise Xi Jinping and Beijing's actions, rather than get into pathetic squabbles over partisan politics over this issue back home.